One of my core values is integrity. And I know this because when growing up, it's always been drilled into me to be honest and to always tell the truth. And what I've come to realize, right, I mentioned that when I was 25 and after a series of life events, you can check out my video on this a few months ago, or I'll post the link in the description, is that I learned to honor myself and what I really wanted to do with my own life, right? How did I end up designing a fulfilling life? A lot of that has to do with integrity and honoring where I'm feeling pulled to do something and being able to say no to things that I should do, but I actually don't want to do. So today's episode is going to be about integrity and the concept of that and why it's so important, and how I'm starting to get my daughter to also build integrity into her life, right? Despite, and this is the other thing, despite society or despite, expectations, right? For her to do otherwise. Hi, I'm Leah Federhoff, a user experience designer, writer, and life strategist, and I want to inspire you to thrive in work and life. So, as I was mentioning, integrity is something that I grew up just, with the idea of it meaning being honest, and now I see integrity as always being able to express like who I am on the outside and how I'm perceived matches who I am on the inside. And the actions, the things I do want to do and I don't want to do are the things I say I do want to do or don't want to do, right? And, there's still gray areas sometimes. And these are, boundaries, or these are still things I'm learning about myself, right? Like, back in the day, I would say I would shy away from uncomfortable conversations or situations where I need to give critical feedback. And now I think it's a lot of reframing that mindset where you honor someone else by giving them the opportunity for themselves to grow, right? And when I'm honest about feedback, especially as a designer, right, we're always evaluating or critiquing other designs, right? Like feedback is a gift, and it has to be a gift because it's one way you can get better, or someone else might have knowledge that you don't have that you can then incorporate right into the next version of your design. So I look at uncomfortable conversations as a way for me to learn more about myself, to see what parts of that feedback land well or sit well with me, which ones don't, and then I can start to ask myself why, right? Or I can ask the other person, like what is coming up for you that makes you feel that way about me. And it creates more of that meaningful dialogue otherwise than like if we just all flow together and everything was always okay all the time, right? And that is where it's important to have diversity and inclusion, is that you're cultivating an open mind and hearing out other people's ideas, and no one's designing in a box or just for themselves or in a silo. It's the reason why it helps to talk to other people when you're designing, is because you can learn and find trends and discover that there are other mental models out there. People think different ways than you, and how will this thing you're building impact them? So a lot of times when a design falls flat, or you're arguing with someone, or pieces of feedback don't land well, it's because of miscommunication or lack of alignment. But ultimately, it comes back to, when you're coming from a place of integrity, you also are connected enough with yourself to then put what you're feeling and thinking out there and then seeing how it's received, right? And then that gives you feedback on, how to respond, or gives you new information and gives you an opportunity to learn, or teach someone else and gives them an opportunity to learn. So that's how I feel about integrity now. It just means that you're not like saying one thing and doing another, or committing to something where you're never actually going to follow through, because that erodes trust. And I found myself, so here's an example, right? Like my daughter, she turned 5, and over the last year, and I wrote actually a Medium article about this, which I'll post in the description below, but I talked about how I was having this like conversation, tucking the kids into bed, where my son was accusing my daughter of lying about something. And she didn't have the words to say like, oh, I prefer, chocolate over strawberry ice cream, or whatever the conversation was, right? And you're like, well, you can't lie about that, right? She has different preferences, right? So my kids change their favorite color all the time. But that's not what I mean about like not having integrity, right? You're not lying about your preferences. Like people can change their mind. And what I encouraged her to do, which she still falls back on to this day, is that she says, it's okay to change my mind. And why I say that and why I encourage that is because it gives her a way to speak up about what's happening inside of her, right? She said yes to this one thing like a few months ago. Now she's saying no, right? She's still in harmony and practicing integrity to herself. But herself 3 months ago is not the same as her self now, right? And this is a hard concept for a lot of us. Even I forget sometimes, right? I'm like, wait, like I shouldn't be doing this. Like no one would think I could do this. And you have to let go of those thoughts, right? Because people have perceptions of you. They have this prototype or this idea of you in their heads, but they don't see all the changes you're going through or the decisions you're making or the things you're learning constantly, right? Like we're all doing that all of the time. And, and that's why, right? We all need to keep open minds and encourage each other because our journeys are all completely different and unique and, special to each of us. Like, there is no one right way to do things. So that's one story about my daughter about, it's okay to change your mind, right? Because now she's being able to express herself, right, accurately in that present moment. The other thing I'm encouraging her to do, even though I might not always agree with it, is to speak her mind. To give another example, right? Like when it was her birthday, she received a present and I wanted her to record a quick thank you video. And she refused. She half-heartedly did it the first time, mumbling. And then the second, third take, she was like doing the same thing. And obviously I was starting to get frustrated. I'm like, all you have to say is say thank you. And then the fourth time she was in tears crying, right? And she just adamant, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. So finally, right, putting on my, taking a step back, observing the situation, right, which is really hard to do. That's why I'm practicing self-awareness, is, to say, how important is this video? And she's already telling me that she doesn't want to do it. And it gets hard as a parent sometimes, right, to pick and choose these battles. Like, on one hand, I want her to be respectful. I want her to acknowledge, right, and be grateful, for what she's receiving. But at the same time, her heart wasn't into it. You could already tell, she was clearly vocalizing she don't want to do something. And as a parent, right, then it's like, well, what does that say of me? I'll just say thank you to, who gifted her the present on behalf of her, right? But she's not really learning manners. But in the grand scheme of things, I'd rather she speak up and vocalize and say what she's feeling and thinking and have that be honored, right? And that's the longer term lesson. Even though short term, I'm like, well, that's unfortunate. She doesn't want to thank someone who got her something. And I have those moments where I'm like, you have to say thank you, just record the video or, be grateful for this. It's kind of taking a step back and bigger picture, what is that outcome? Or, what does this say? What if this becomes a pivotal memory for her where I forced her to do something and, while I'm also trying to encourage her to remain authentic and in integrity to what she wants. This is just a simple, okay, it's okay to let go of a thank you. But there's been times where she refused to go to school, refused to go see a doctor, right? And these are times where as a parent, right, it's longer term, we need to take care of your health. or you need to go to school, like you pick one day not to go to school, like maybe like as long as this is a day, right? And it's a decision every day, right? And it's cumulative over time, right? Like what habits am I building? What am I encouraging? What kind of feedback and response do I expect from her? And will I follow through and listen to her, right? And it's never easy. I mean, same with like you or me too. I could wake up and just say like, I don't feel like going to work today. But if that becomes my mindset every day, right, then clearly something needs to change. And, does that mean I go find another job? Does that mean I just like stay in bed all day and just don't tell anyone? Like, right? And there are good decisions or bad decisions, I guess. Not good or bad in the sense like, okay, like you have to do this. But I guess there are more signals about how you handle it with integrity or not. My head instantly always goes to a system. For example, like if I missed out on work for a week and didn't tell anyone, right, that hurts my team. They wouldn't know what to do. HR would not be happy with that. And all those things, right?